Welcome back to Breaking Free Together. Is that what we're called? Sorry. So welcome back to Breaking Free Together. You're here with me, Karen, and Pamela.
Hi.
So today we're going to be discussing emotional triggers because they're quite a common part of the healing journey whenever you've been through narcissistic abuse. And they're quite challenging because they can sometimes come upon us when we're not expecting it. So the goal of this episode is we're going to help you understand the triggers that maybe happen to you and then equip you with some tools, go through some tools that you'll be able to use to help manage these flashbacks and help them not overwhelm you so much because at times they can happen when you're least expecting it, can't they? So it's important to remember that sometimes you're not expecting it at all and it comes. It could be in the middle of a supermarket, or it could be at work, or it could be when you're on a phone call. And you end up feeling, well, as well as feel embarrassed because you don't know really, how to handle it, it can also be quite distressing because as we'll learn later on, flashbacks are taking you back to a time when you didn't feel safe.
Yeah,
So it can make you almost feel like you're not safe and you're not where you should be. So in this episode, we're going to look at how these triggers are related to our past trauma, our relationship with that narcissist, the abuse, and we're going to find out why understanding them is the key, as a key step towards healing.
we hear the word trigger all of the time, don't we? I mean, it's like now. I think it was you who said to me, "Your kids more than mine, because my kids are all grown up, but your kids use like, oh, mum, you're so triggered." You know,
Yeah,
the word is
yeah,
used very often. But when we think of it, what is an emotional trigger? What is, because whilst it's become a trend to say, and there's plenty of memes on Facebook about people being triggered, it's a real thing, and it's an
yeah,
entirely disabling thing. It's something that causes you to react so intensely or emotionally, and it's not one thing. It can be a word, it can be a smell, it can be a situation, it can be a guy carrying an umbrella wearing a green coat. Something that connects you to a past trauma or a
yeah,
past circumstance that caused you distress. One minute you can be sitting doing nothing, next minute a song could come on and you're like a puddle in your chair because you're like,
yeah,
and the confusion I think is the hardest part because you're going, what the bloody hell was that? I was fine a minute ago and now, or a smell. So when I was
yeah.
training as a therapist, we were given an example of when this guy went into the bakery one morning. One minute he was stood in the line waiting to be served. The next minute he was on the floor screaming with his hands over his head. All the other people were like, "What the bloody hell is going on?" But this bakery sold made-to-order cakes, and as he had been standing there, the smell of marzipan had wafted over the counter to him. Why had he reacted to marzipan? Because he'd been close to a bomb blast in Belfast City, and Semtex, or another explosive, smells like marzipan. So just
Yeah,
like that, it was, and the smell
very
just
much.
took him right back to a horrifically traumatic experience. So that's how powerful our triggers can be.
Yeah. Well, you hear it all the time, don't you, with people that have well, it's where PTSD comes from really as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's not where PTSD comes from, but it's part of PTSD when you hear of the people coming out of the forces and things like
yeah.
loud noises or fireworks can set them off into a flashback. It's there in our brains do take us back to these places. And so when we suffer narcissistic abuse, sorry, because with that come its patterns of manipulation, invalidation, and emotional neglect. They all have such a
The
massive
usual
effect on
suspect.
you. Yes, all the usual suspects. They have such a massive, well, that's it. It doesn't leave bruises, physical bruises, does it? Although I know some does turn physical, but
Yeah,
those things, they leave marks on your brain and on your nervous system, your emotional system. And so it can leave you hypersensitive to certain behaviors or
yeah,
environments because it just takes you right back to that narcissistic abuse. So it could be a tone of voice for us. It was our parent that we suffered from. So that very young in your life, that hearing that tone of voice and being abusive to you, you can hear a certain tone of voice in your adult life, and it would take you
yeah.
straight back to being in that same place as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old. These feelings come from these triggers, which come from our abuse, the way that we were abused. Understanding where it's coming from is helps you then because you don't always recognize why you react like that
Yeah,
or see that there's anything wrong with reacting like that, and it's only when
yeah.
you realize that you can stop, like you said, take a breath, or the other things we're going to show you later you can do, and then that helps you because it really helps your health, your mental health. It helps your nervous system. It just helps everything to just be a lot calmer because you're living in a constant, when you're having these triggers a lot, you're living in a constant state of anxiety and a constant state of reactivity. And it keeps you on edge. You're in a
It
constant state of
does.
fear, aren't you?
Yeah, it does.
And because it won't just be one thing, it will be a number of things that will affect you,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know? Yeah. And some of the others are dismissive behavior. So a narcissist is generally a dismissive person. They'll dismiss you, your opinions, how you feel, your feelings. And so if
Yeah,
someone mirrors that in some way towards you, then you can end up having feelings of inadequacy or even anger coming up in
yeah,
you because it reminds you, emotionally in the back of your head, it reminds you of that conflict situation. I know I struggle with this. Arguments or confrontations can trigger a fight or flight response. I struggle with the flight or maybe the freeze actually, but you've got the fight. Sometimes people can be very aggressive in conflict situations, or on the other hand, they can be really, really, really submissive and never stand up or lay boundaries down because of this narcissistic abusive experience before,
yeah. And you could maybe look back and go, right, well, that was in my past. Why are they happening to me now? It doesn't make sense. And one of one of the things that is really important to understand is the more intense the emotion that we experience, the deeper it's imprinted into our memory base in our brain.
Yeah,
So whether that's a good emotional response or a bad emotional response. So if you're out with your kids and you have like a great day and the kids are laughing and everything goes wonderful and the sun's shining and you have ice cream and someone's ice cream falls off and you're all fall about in the sand and fits of laughter, that's a memory that's going to be stuck in your head for ages. You'll be able to look back, unless you're like me, can't remember anything. You'll be able to look back and go, "Oh yeah, do you remember that day?" That's the good stuff. But as deeply imprinted indelibly into your brain is the bad stuff. And we know that fear
yeah,
is a massively intrusive emotion, along with all the other things that narcissistic abuse makes us feel. Your feelings are a reaction to somebody treating you a certain way. And narcissistic abuse is so permeating. It really is, because it permeates every part of your life, whether you
yeah,
received it from a parent or a partner or even a friend or a colleague at work. It permeates everything, because once you start self-doubting yourself in one thing, you then start self-doubting yourself in everything. It
yeah,
just leaks into everything. So our brain remembers the deeply emotional responses, which means that when we then are put into a situation that is similar or familiar or the same, our responses are the same as they were back then, even though
Yeah.
we're not maybe under the same threat as we thought we were back then. It's just your brain protecting you. And so you respond the way or react the way you would have experienced it back then. So when my youngest boys were like 10 or 11, we had a whole nighttime routine. So I'd read them stories. I've read them stories for years. I'd go up and I'd read them a story, and then they'd be allowed to have their phone for half an hour. And then I'd go upstairs and take the phone off them and bring them downstairs so they couldn't do like sneaky stuff while they went up till 2 o'clock in the morning, you know. But the relationship I was in, it was an unhealthy relationship at the time, which probably impacted me, probably impacted me more. But if I would be downstairs, so I've come downstairs and the half an hour has been given, and I'm downstairs and I'm doing things that mums do, in the evening time, all the stuff that you do once the kids are upstairs, whether that be the
Yeah.
cleaning or the dishes or the laundry or whatever. If I had forgotten, so let's say 40 minutes or 45 minutes or 50 minutes have passed, my partner would have no problems once into the kitchen and saying, don't forget, you need to get the boys' phones. And it really used to piss me off. And I know they were being helpful, kind of.
Yeah.
They're trying to be helpful, but I would get so flipping angry. Do you know? And I'm like, all right. And my reaction would be snappy, and I'd be like, well, if I didn't come out with a reaction because I didn't want to start an argument, I'd be going upstairs under my breath. Do you know what I mean? Tell me, get the kids fucking phones, like a deranged person.
Yeah.
But it was only when I went and talked this because I couldn't figure it out. I was studying as a therapist at the time, and I couldn't figure it. I was like, what is the connection here? It doesn't make any sense, and I couldn't put the pieces together. And only when I talked it through with my therapist, and he said to me, "It's because she's telling you what to do."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And of course, I've been with my therapist quite a while then, so he knew all the ins and outs of the relationship. And also, he knew all the ins and outs of what I'd experienced as a child. And he said, she is reminding you of your dad
Yeah.
because she's telling you what to do. And she's also telling you that you have failed at what you're
Yeah.
supposed to have done. And as you know, we spent our childhood being told what to do, as well as being reminded of how useless we were, or how stupid we were, or how good enough we weren't. So once I worked through that in therapy, I understood the trigger, I understood why I was feeling that way. But once it was like, once I shone a light on it and I understood it, I didn't get angry again after that, which is really
Yeah.
bizarre, but it's how it works. Once you can understand it
Yeah.
and realize and the connection, you take the power away. You take the power away from
Yeah.
the trigger because you've put in understanding onto it
Yeah.
and you get it.
You know where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's very similar to you, but with criticism. So I'm really hypersensitive, well, to being criticized, and it triggers me horrendously. I'm not a big-headed person. I
No,
think I'm quite a humble person,
you
and
are.
I usually will take it on board if I'm in the wrong. But for the life of me, the second somebody criticizes me, my bristles go up. I'm like really, like you were explaining about being told what to do. I'm just like, I can't. It just takes me back, and it's like I'm hearing it in Dad's voice because he was so overly critical of us constantly.
Yeah.
Any kind of criticism, and it's even constructive criticism. I know not all criticism is constructive, and maybe if someone's being unkind, you've got every right to be a bit annoyed. But even
Yeah.
constructive criticism, have you, even down to if I have an idea and someone's like, "Well, if you thought of this, or if you thought of this," I'm just like, "Oh, well, just piss on my bonfire, why don't you?" Kind of thing. And they're being constructive. They're not saying don't do it. They're saying think of this and think of this. By immediately, that's how I immediately react. Any kind of criticism, I'm absolutely, I'm so defensive.
Yeah.
You know, um, I do know where that comes from. It hasn't changed for me. I think that's maybe going to take a bit more work. I still struggle with that now. So
What do you think could help you?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think maybe it's tied in with the fact that ultimately I don't think I'm good enough. So what I need to do is I need to work on it so that I don't believe what Dad said when he criticized me. And if I
Yeah,
don't believe it, I don't believe it's true, then when people do criticize me, if they're doing it unkindly, I can just water off a duck's back because I'm like, well, that says more about you than me.
yeah,
If they're criticizing constructively to just help me, then I can be like, then I can see it for what it is, rather than feeling like, oh, they're telling me I'm not good enough. Like Dad used to tell me I'm not good enough and getting defensive about it. So I think I need to I think the twofold thing there, the working on feeling like I'm good enough and knowing that I'm good enough to know that any criticism, that constructive criticism that comes my way is just generally trying to help me, and I can accept that for what it is. But I think that's it. I think because I still believe that what Dad said is true, that's why I still am hypersensitive to it, I think. I think I
yeah.
need to stop believing that, and I think it would help immensely. So
Which is a big order, isn't it? It's a
it
big order
is. You
stopping.
got
I mean, once you've had tell you from like we talked about before, the formative years, when you've had that programmed
yeah,
into you, the formative years from 0 to 7, it's a big ask to just go, oh well, I don't need to believe that anymore.
yeah.
it's not, and you can't just flick a switch. It doesn't happen like that,
She can't. No,
No.
because you've had it from the ground up. We've
Yeah,
discussed this on another podcast that even when you're in your mum's tummy, we would have heard Dad criticizing mum, Dad
yeah,
criticizing our older brother, and then from babies we would have picked up on the whole thing. It was always negative. There was never praise. It was always bad, 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 and we'd have picked up on that. So when you've been told to your core from the very beginnings of your life, when you learn that black is black and white is white and day is day and night is night, then with the same conviction do you learn that I'm no good, I'm not good at anything, I'm doing it all wrong. I can't trust myself to make decisions because I get it all wrong all the time. It's hard work. I think because also you're not on your own trying to do that. You're trying to navigate this alongside, and everybody will be in the same situation. You're navigating this alongside of still simultaneously having other relationships with your partner, with your children, with other relatives, with your friends. And so not only are you trying to like look at the base and fix the foundation, and heal that, you're also then going to have to change the way things works in the way things work in your relationships presently.
yeah,
And so that can make it a bit more complicated, but it can be done. I truly believe that. At the end of the day, there's only you that can change that.
yes.
You have to change your internal narrative.
And
You
how
have
do you think you can do that?
to
Tell the audience.
tell the audience. Well, one of the things which I do, and it is helping, is my daily affirmations, telling
Are you
myself that
still
I'm
doing
enough.
that?
Yes, telling myself that I'm enough, telling myself that I'm good enough. I have started, it's less journaling. Well, no, it is journaling, but as opposed to writing down, well, I don't know, journaling is anything you're writing down, isn't it?
Absolutely. No
So I'll
rules.
go back and I'll say, so one thing I'm starting to write down is something good that I've done during the day that I'm proud of myself for. So yesterday I had a job interview. There was a couple of little blips, which I can laugh about now, but overall, I was proud of the way that I'd handled it. Today, there'll be something else, probably this podcast, that I've done and I've done. And the other thing is, I haven't done this yet, but I want to do it. And just us talking about it now is going to make me do it now. Is writing down, and this is hard. This is hard if well, a lot of people who have been through narcissistic abuse will find it very hard. But it's very hard if you have self-esteem issues, and self-worth issues. But writing down things about yourself that are good, that you know are true. And it can be hard to say those things out loud to other people. And it has to be something that you have a deep belief in. So I find it hard to say them because I find that I'm worried that people think I'm big-headed or and all of those things. So writing it down maybe makes it easier. So for example, I do know that I'm a compassionate and empathetic person. I do know that about myself, and I fully believe that about myself. I feel it to my core that I'm compassionate and that I'm empathetic. I know when I think of other people, I don't think of them in an uncompassionate way. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I always think good things about them. I wouldn't sit here and constantly in my head criticize other people. If people have done wrong things, even I will always look for if there's a reason behind it, which maybe gets you into trouble in the first place. But there you go. I'll always look for maybe if there's a reason. Well, even like dad, I always think about the childhood he must have had, and not that that excuses the way he behaved, but
Mhm.
and so I know that, and that is a good quality about myself, and that is good. And so write that down because the more you do, the more you build up a picture of yourself that you're a good person and that you have good qualities and that you make a difference in this world. That could just be in your own small circle, you make a difference. I make a difference to my children by being a compassionate, empathetic mother, and that
Yeah,
makes a huge difference to them. That means they'll
of
never
course.
grow up the way that we grew up. That
Yeah.
means they will learn the ability to be empathetic and compassionate as well, so doing those kinds of things, I think you need to, sorry, I've waffled on all the way around the world, but I think
That's right.
the main thing is I think I need to build the sense of self, who I am,
Hmm.
and and that I have good qualities, not only good qualities, we all have bad ones, we all need to work on ourselves, but that I have some good core qualities. And once I
Yeah.
can start believing that, then I can stop believing. And it's like you said about the water in the juice, just keep pouring more and more water until it becomes so diluted it becomes water and no longer juice. And that's what I
Yeah.
need to do. I need to dilute those beliefs that I have about myself from my dad, dilute them with good stuff. So sooner or later, that's all gone, and it will be all gone. It's doable.
Yeah.
So it's just doing it.
I'll give
Yeah,
you a trick, a quick
go on.
trick to do. What I find helpful is proving it to be true. So if you
Right, okay.
feel something about yourself, so I'm not good enough. Okay, is it true? If it's true, prove it. Why are you not good enough? Prove why you're
Okay.
not good enough.
Okay.
Because I think you'll
I'm
be
not doing
hard pressed to.
that.
No, I know, but I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm talking about when you're doing your journaling.
No, no, I'm joking.
So
Yeah,
when you think of a belief, or when you're sitting there and saying to yourself, I believe I'm not good enough, write down, I am not good enough. Write down, is it true? Evidence for, evidence against,
yeah,
and debate with yourself why you believe. And I mean, not just, oh, because dad said so, or because I made that mistake, or we all make mistakes, but
yeah,
prove to yourself why you are not good enough. Because when you do that and take the time to write it down, you'd actually be hard pressed if you were honest with yourself. I'm not
yeah,
talking about being Debbie Downer on yourself. I mean being honest with yourself and saying, why am I not good enough? And you could come out with, oh, well, I don't phone my father enough, and I don't speak to Pamela enough, and I don't brush my teeth every day. I don't know. I don't, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I can't
yeah.
think of anything. I'm trying to think of something and it's not coming to me. But none of that makes you not good enough.
No,
It makes you a human being. So then when you do the
yeah,
argument for what actually, if I am good enough, and then you write down the arguments for how good enough you actually are.
yeah. So just going back to the flashbacks, what they actually are. So they're quite intense, aren't they? They're involuntary memories. So they're intruding. You haven't asked for them to be there. You haven't drawn from your memory bank. They're just there that bring that past trauma. Once you've been triggered by whatever it is we've discussed, they bring that past trauma then to the front of our memory, to the front of our brain. And then you relive, even though you're not in that situation again, you relive. everything that you felt when you were in that situation. So your emotional state, um, all the feelings that you have from back then, they're all
Yeah.
there in the present situation that you're in now.
Yeah.
So they can make you panic, they can make you anxious, you can feel helpless, you can feel unsafe. And
Yeah.
then with that comes all of the maybe the physical, all the physical feelings or the physical signs that you're in a frightened mode or a panic mode, like sweating and your heart's racing, you can't catch your breath, or you're kind of hyper breathing. Um,
Yeah.
all of these things can make you feel so disoriented because you're here, but you're having all of those feelings from the past. So it's hard then to ground yourself. It's hard then to try and catch on to the fact that you're not in an unsafe situation.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do. We want to help people to have the tools to bring themselves back and to bring themselves, ground themselves, and let them know that you're here, you're not there, you're here, you're safe. And so that's the toolbox that we want to give to people.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one way that we can try and bring ourselves back to the present when we've got all of these emotions and feelings of the past that's making us feel the way that the anxiety and the panic is by using grounding techniques. So Pamela and I are going to run through a couple with you. You can take the time to go through them or try one at a time, maybe one every day, or just to get a feel of them and start using them when you don't need them to help you. And
Yeah.
then they are there in your little toolbox. You've used them regularly. And so you are used to them, familiar with them, and you can use them then when you're in these situations. I mean, I find a lot of these techniques quite good just for that every day, to be honest with you, just to
Absolutely.
kind of regain my equilibrium, regain my calmness anyway.
Yeah.
So, one of the first ones is the 5 4 3 2 1 grounding technique. We're going to go through different ways, starting with 5 things, 4 things, 3 things to help ground yourself. You're going to engage all your different senses, and this will help you remain in the present or come back to the present. So, the first thing, you can try this now if you want to. The first thing is 5 things you can see. So, if you look around yourself, describe your surroundings, and just pop out in your head, think about 5 things that you can see. And that helps you stay connected with your surroundings. Then we're going to go with our sense of touch. We're going to go with 4 things that you can feel. So just your clothes, maybe, or even your feet on the ground. Just 4 things that you can feel that'll help you engage that sense. Then we're going to engage our hearing. So 3 things you can hear in your environment. If you can notice any sounds and try and focus on them, even if it's your own breathing. And now our sense of smell. We're going to try and connect with 2 things that we can smell. If there's any smells in the room, maybe your own perfume, maybe even hold your hair, smell your shampoo, your conditioner, 2 things that you can smell. And then our sense of taste. So 1 thing we can taste. So even taste in your own mouth, you might have a taste in there from your last meal or a mint. If you've got a mint in your bag, or you could take a sip of water or tea or a drink that you've got with you. And then all of those things, they just bring you back to the present, bring you back to your surroundings, let you know that you're safe, you know where you are, and engaging all those senses then does this grounding technique, does this grounding to help you feel where you are in the moment and not back in the past.
That was actually really good. I was doing that along with you. I haven't
Yeah.
done that for quite some time, and it does really bring you into the room. I
Present,
was
yeah.
going around feeling and looking, and it was actually really good. So another thing you can do is breathing exercises, and there are numerous different breathing exercises. So when we're breathing, we encourage deep, slow breath to calm the body and to reduce panic. Again, like as you said earlier, to bring you back from wherever your flashback has taken you, or your trigger has taken you, so you're in the present moment. So you have probably heard perhaps of the box method, where you imagine a box as you're breathing. And what we're going to do is we're going to inhale slowly for the count of 4, which is one side of the box. So we're then going to hold for 4. We're then going to exhale for 4 seconds. We're then going to hold for 4. It's that simple. It's that simple. Just do that 5 to 10 times if you have to do it. It's also that kind of exercise that you can do in the company of others and nobody really knows that you're doing it. You could be on a
Yeah.
bus, you could be in a taxi, you could be on the street. You can literally just stand there and take that breath in, hold it, exhale, and breathe out again. And you can be anywhere and do that, which will bring you and settle you down, ground you in that moment.
I find that one particularly good for if you're experiencing your heart rate rise because you're
Yes.
having the actual physical symptoms of panicking or anxiety or having a flashback. That I use that a lot for my to calm my heart rate down, and I find
Yes.
that doing that breathing helps my heart to just calm right down and take a nice slow steady rhythm. So it's good for any physical symptoms, that one is as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Moving on with that actually is the mindfulness practice. People
Yeah.
often get mindfulness and meditation confused. They are two very different things. Mindfulness is not as involved as meditation. Meditation is sitting and relaxing entirely and not emptying the mind so much, but slowing the mind down. Mindfulness is literally staying in the present moment. You can do that again on a bus, in a taxi, walking down the street. You can walk down the street and just listen to your footsteps and say, I am walking down the street. I am taking footsteps. There is a bus just gone past me. There is a shop
Yeah.
window with a dress in. You can say all this in your head. You're focusing on the sounds, the things you can see, the environment around you, and bringing yourself back to that present moment. If you're thinking about those things in the present moment, your mind can't be back in the past. It can't concentrate
No.
on two things at the same time, which is why these techniques work. If you're counting your breath for
Yeah.
4 seconds and holding your breath for 4 seconds and breathing out for 4 seconds and doing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, or having that mindfulness where you're walking and thinking exactly what you're doing, you cannot be thinking. It's not possible. Your brain cannot
No.
cope with doing those two things at the same time, especially on an emotional level, because the mindfulness, again, different with meditation. You can't sit in the car and do meditation, you'll crash, I assure you. But mindfulness, if you're driving along, you can literally say, I've just passed the telegraph pole, I'm just passing a tree, that's a red car, that's a yellow bridge, do you know? And it talking to yourself to bring yourself back into the moment.
That's it. That's key, isn't it? Another one that we can do. This is, well, I don't know. I say this is tricky to do when you're around people, but if you are somewhere you can relax, even if it's on a bus, if you're not engaging with anybody, this can help. And that is a body scan. And basically, with a body scan, you are again using your senses or your body to bring yourself back to the present. So you're going to focus on, like you said, something else other than this flashback, and that is going to help you. So we'll again have a little practice now. You can always come back to this to practice a couple of times so that you know what you're doing if you need it in one of those situations. So what generally we say is that if you can lie down if you're at home now in your bed, or sit back and relax. And what we're going to do is we're just going to observe. We're going to observe things in our body. We're not going to judge how we feel or what we're observing. We're just going to simply observe the sensations that we feel in our body. We don't need to change how our body's feeling or anything else. We're just going to observe them. So to begin, we either sit back or we lie down just so that we're comfy. You can close your eyes if you're comfortable with doing that, or if you're maybe not, if you end up one time on public transport, you can just let your gaze soften. And we're just going to concentrate on our breath. So we're just going to take a deep breath in and then breathe out. And then another deep breath in and then breathe out. And then one more time, another deep breath in and then breathe out. And with that last breath, then you can just let your breathing go back to your regular form of breathing, your regular pattern of breathing. And then I want you to notice the feelings throughout your feet, including your sole, your heel, your toes, and the top of your foot. Just notice the sensation of the ground or your shoes or anything else that you can detect on your feet. And we're just noticing, not changing, not judging, just noticing those sensations. Then we're going to travel up our body, noticing the sensations in our ankles, shins, and calves. Notice any sensations deep in the muscle as well, and on the surface of your skin, maybe your clothes touching you, or maybe any tenseness you might feel in your muscles. Just feel the sensation, whatever you're feeling. And we continue noticing the feelings in our legs as we move up to our knees and thighs. Again, maybe notice how your clothing feels against your skin, or maybe back of the chair is feeling against the back of your knees. And we'll continue moving up our body. Take notice of the feelings in your hips and in your backside. Simply notice the feelings. You don't need to change them. So pay attention to the feelings now in your lower back and your abdomen. Notice how your body feels against the surface on which you're sitting or you're lying down. Maybe feel how your tummy moves, your abdomen moves as you're breathing. And then we're going to move up to further up our body to maybe where our lungs are. And for a few minutes, pay attention to your breathing. Notice how your upper abdomen rises when you breathe in deeply and falls when you exhale. And just feel that sensation. And experience the sensations in your upper back and your chest. Maybe notice the feelings of clothing on your body, or what you're leaning on, or how you're feeling deeper inside your body. Then we go back down to the feelings in our hands, and our fingers and our wrists. We feel if maybe our hands are pressing, our fingertips are pressing against something, or if they're relaxed. And we just notice those sensations. Now notice the sensations in your forearms, upper arms, and your shoulders. You're leaning against anything with your shoulders. How does that feel? And then as we move up, pay attention to the feelings in our neck and our throat, both the outside and the inside. Maybe feel the sensations as you swallow. Notice the feelings in your face and your head. Feel every single feature in your face, one by one, how your mouth is feeling, your nose, maybe your cheekbones and your cheeks, maybe your eyes. Again, no judgment on these feelings, just feel them. Finally, slowly scan your entire body, noticing all the sensations from your toes to the top of your head. And as our body scan exercise comes to a close, at your own pace, allow your eyes to open. And that concludes our body scan exercise. So that helps you to really connect with your body, connect with how you're feeling, focus on how your body feels and really ground yourself, doesn't it? To pull yourself away from anything that's been making you panic or frighten you from the past, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. That was actually really relaxing.
I found it really relaxing to say, to run us through it, even though I
Yeah,
wasn't, yeah. So there's also self-soothing techniques we can do as well, isn't there? Because you are emotionally experiencing a scary situation or a situation where you've been abused and you're reliving all of those feelings. So
yeah,
it's really important that we can soothe ourselves in a way that we weren't when we were younger or when we were in that situation. So
absolutely.
yeah. So when this happens, we don't want to judge ourselves. There's
No,
none of this is our fault. So we want to be very self-compassionate. No judgment, just acknowledge that you're experiencing it. And then it's a result of the past trauma, but it's not happening now. Even if you just have to keep saying that to yourself, that
yeah,
it's not happening now.
yeah,
So you want that self-compassion, you want that kindness towards yourself. You haven't failed. There's nothing you're doing wrong. You're not being stupid because you're experiencing this is something that was done to you, and it's because it's in the past, but it's affecting you now.
yeah, yeah. And you can also reaffirm your safety.
Yeah,
I mean, you talked earlier about affirmations, and you've really benefited from the
yeah,
affirmations that you have been doing. I mean, you've been doing them now for 4 months, isn't it? Because you started in January, isn't that right?
yeah. I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So you can, whereas, someone can say daily affirmations, we can actually say affirmations in that moment.
Mm,
Your
yeah,
mind needs to hear you tell yourself that you're safe. So you can say, I'm safe. This moment will pass, or I'm not in danger anymore. That was a memory.
yeah,
I'm here in the present. I'm not in danger. And I know it might sound a bit cheesy, but if you're able to speak these out loud, it's a double affirmation because you're
yeah,
not only speaking them, but your mind is hearing your own voice, which
yeah.
doubles the action of soothing and the feeling of safety.
And alongside telling yourself that you're safe. You can also do something physically to help soothe yourself. So depending on where you are, wrapping yourself in a blanket so you feel that secureness, that hug
Yeah.
around yourselves is good. Taking a warm bath, again, that's a very soothing thing, very soothing, very you're encompassed in the water. So
Yeah.
that's very soothing as well. I mean, people talk about having therapy, dogs, therapy, pets, but having your pet with you, that I mean, a lot of pets sense when you're not feeling great anyway, but even just the action of stroking them is
Yeah.
very therapeutic. I mean,
Yeah.
they've shown that in like when they've taken dogs and pets into nursing homes, into to see elderly people who are struggling, and just being able to stroke them and cuddle them and be near them does them their mental health a world of good. So having that, if you're somewhere, I was thinking as well, if you're somewhere public that you can't, I do what's called the tapping method. And it is, I mean, a lot of people use the tappings with the affirmations, and I get that that's what it's supposed to be for. But I find just maybe tapping my wrist or just tapping the side of my head. And it's something, I find it really comforting. I know that sounds silly, or some people stroke be your hand or just stroke the side of your head. Just something like that, something that's repetitive, something that's soothing, something that you find helps you to stay calm, and that physical touch. It's what you do to a child, but you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
You're parenting
Absolutely.
yourself in that way. That will help as well.
What other tools can we use for healing? Dun 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 dun. What am I going to say? I wonder what it could be. Oh, I
What
know.
big?
What could it be? It involves a pen and a notebook. Ta-da! Of course, I'm going to say journaling because it's my
Hannah's
go-to
favorite jewel.
tool. It is my go-to tool, and I love it. Yeah, journal your emotional responses to triggers. And by doing this, and you can have a separate journal. I mean, we talk about journaling in every bloody episode that we
So,
do. I will scream it from the rooftops because I know how much it helps people.
mm,
But you can have a separate journal for your emotional triggers,
yeah,
Um, and if you're writing down and keeping a diary, if you like, of these experiences, of how you felt before, during, and after, if it's a flashback or if it's the trigger, you're going to then have a pattern of what happens. So you have this happens, and when this happens, I feel like this. And then when I feel like this, I act like this. And then when I act like this is how I respond.
yeah,
So, for example, um, when someone speaks to me sarcastically, I automatically feel angry and frustrated. I act angrily to that person. And then afterwards, it sticks with me the whole time for the rest of the day.
yeah,
And if that is what happens every single time, write that down because you're able to track what you're doing. And the more you write it down, and the more aware you become of the actual pattern of behavior, that will come up for you then the next time it happens.
yeah.
It will come up for you the next time it happens. And when someone's sarcastic, you're going to think of those times you wrote that in the journal and go, I don't have to react like this. I
No,
don't have to react like this. I know what this is, and I don't have to react like this.
yeah,
I can do that breathing exercise. I can take a breath and I can do the breathing exercise. I can tell myself I'm fine, that this person isn't my dad or my ex-husband or fill in the blank, that this is not meant in any way to hurt me. And I can self-soothe, and then the rest of my day goes the way it's supposed to, rather than me
yeah,
completely disabled, myself undone for the rest of the day. So for
yeah,
me, one of the tools for healing, shout over the rooftops, journaling. Write down your feelings, write down your you'll be able to track your progress, because every time you do it, and if the next time you do it, it doesn't take you just as long to come out of it, and the next time you do it, it takes you even shorter to come out of it, and the next time you do it, you don't keep hold of that anger, and the next time you do it, you
Yeah.
respond differently. You're going to change that every single time, and you're going to be able to look back on that journal and go, oh, look at that. 4 months ago, I would have done this. Now I'm doing this.
Doing that,
That's
yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
And it'll give you a massive boost. It really will.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a whole part of healing, of the healing journey, so to speak. You go from there to 4 months later there, and that is your journey. That is your healing happening right there in front of your eyes. You've got a record of it, haven't you?
Absolutely.
And that ties in as well with one of the other ways is by reframing the narrative, that because the narrative that you're having is that you're when you're having a flashback is that you're not safe and you're in danger and something bad has happened to you. And just exactly like you said there, um we can reframe that, especially if we use a lot of those techniques. If we know that we have a toolbox that we can use the techniques, then we can think to ourselves, I know that this is something from the past. This isn't happening to me now. I know I'm not in danger. I know I am safe, and I have the strength and I have the tools to handle this. And I am going to use this tool and use it.
Yeah.
Or like you said, think to yourself, I wrote in my journal and I know that this is what I'll use to make myself feel grounded and to make myself feel safe. So challenge it when it comes up, challenge that thought, challenge that unsafe feeling, challenge that feeling that you're in danger, and say to yourself, tell yourself, I know I'm not in danger. I am here and I'm going to ground myself and I can handle this situation. And the
Yeah.
more you do that, the more you use those tools, the more of a natural reaction that will be, the stronger that
Yeah.
voice will be,
Yeah.
narrative will be, instead of the narrative that I'm not safe, I'm in danger, or like you said, it's my dad talking to me, or fill in the blank kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then the other things that can help is therapy and support group. I mean, that's another thing that you've talked about is therapy. We both absolutely know that therapy works. Different
Yep.
therapies for different people. I mean, one of the therapies that can be particularly good for flashbacks is CBT, isn't it? Because that deals with the here and the now. It's challenging your pattern of thought and breaking that cycle and changing that pattern of thought and behavior, the kind of connections. It's breaking those connections and making new, fresh connections so
Yeah.
that your mind reacts in a different way, if that makes sense.
It does. But it's like you said before, changing the narrative.
Yeah.
You are changing the narrative in your head when you do CBT, and it's very goal orientated, so that you are like looking at a goal and setting yourself a goal and aiming for that goal, which in itself can be a distraction for what we are dealing with.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, I've just started just doing some little bits this week of CBT because it's something I've wanted to try for ages. And one of the first things was, because I struggle with this, one of the first things was identifying the emotion you're actually feeling.
Yeah.
Because until you do that, identifying the emotion you're actually feeling, then you can't then change your reaction to it. So
Yeah.
it takes you right back to the beginning. And like you're saying, if you're in that, even doing that when you're in that moment, even if what am I feeling? What's the emotion I'm feeling? I'm feeling scared. Why am I feeling scared? And it just it again, it takes the attention away from that past trauma and helps you logically process what you're feeling and why you don't need to have that reaction to it anymore.
Absolutely. So we need to take time to reflect on our emotional triggers, don't we? I mean, they're not going to change unless we, like we said earlier, shine a light on them. I know we want to ignore them in the hope that they'll go away all by themselves. But that doesn't work. You know, we've been there. We've hid our head in the sand
Yeah,
for decades.
a long time.
and realize that sticking your arse in the air with your head in the sand does nothing but give your bum sunburn.
No,
Do you know,
no.
that's doesn't help at all. So
No.
we need to identify those moments when we felt overwhelmed or out of control. And like we said, it's good if you're able to track these, if you're able to journal them when they happen, and then you're able to see a pattern and you're able to address that pattern. And the another thing you can do, which I forgot about, is create a coping plan. Everything we have just listed there, and I will put the list in the description box below.
Yeah.
Everything we have just listed there, you can put in a coping plan. And if that needs to be written down into a book or on a PDF or on your notes on your phone, whatever you need, something that's going to be close by when you need it. Write what works for you. Now, maybe all of those things that we mentioned won't work for you. Maybe you know, oh, I've done mindfulness and I can't get my head into it, or well, I won't have time to do that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing. Fine. Choose 3 of those strategies or 2 of those strategies
Yeah.
and say, right, when this happens, this is my coping plan and this is what I'm going to do, whatever works for you. For now, though, we're going to bring our episode to a close. So thank you for joining us today for this episode. We hope that some of the techniques and the things we've shared with you have been helpful. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. Give us a bit of a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe because it's a bloody good podcast and it will do you good. I'm telling you right now. So it's bye from here.
Bye. And it's bye from her.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.